What's up with it, y'all? I'm waiting on Cutes right now. OG Cute should be signing in any moment. Maybe a few of you may beat him here. I know notifications been a problem, and I know you guys not used to me going on for the last few weeks. Young Tiny, what it do, homie? What up? I think Cutes wants to talk about something about the P Diddy trial and some history and some questions and answers for y'all to intermingle with the crowd. Hopefully next year Cutes will be at the meet and greet and he could talk to y'all in person. But here he is right here. What up, Magnificent Seven?
Hey, what's up, young Kev? How y'all doing? What's up, Mac Kids and Maniacs?
Oh man, I'm just chilling. I was watching a good fight, man. Uh, it's crazy because you you know how you see fights and you could tell one dude just don't have it, whether he's a favorite or not.
Yeah.
This guy Plant, they was raving about him being a favorite and how good he is, and this next big fight. And so I looked at it and I told them the Mexican's gonna win before the fight started. The Mexican name was I forgot Benavidez, I forgot his name, but once the fight started, I told them they was being biased. This Mexican got what it takes to beat this dude because I
Yeah.
seen he didn't have no right hand. After 2 rounds, I seen the white boy had no right hand, bro. How you gonna win just throwing a left to the body and a left jab? I
He
couldn't
must
see it.
he probably hurt his hand or something was injured on him
Possibly,
and you was noticing it. Or maybe
possibly.
he just couldn't throw it.
Well,
Period.
they say he's threw it in other fights, but through the first 2 rounds, I didn't see him throwing no right. So he might have hurt his hand before the fight. But
Yeah.
after the second or third round, the Mexican had all the momentum and all the courage, and he just whooped that dude basically every round after that but one. And
Was
so,
it a middleweight fight?
nah, they was like 130 something. Nah, they was more.
Oh, well, welterweight. They were welterweight.
But somebody in the comments, I try not to be offended because people always said I don't know boxing, I don't know fighters and stuff. But somebody asked me, "What fight are you watching, KM?" I'm watching a fight where dude is winning, but he's winning with just a left. He's not going to be able to fight 12 rounds with just a left. And so when he started hitting him, I'm telling him, dude, this is like a 3-2 fight. And they telling me, no, it's not. Then I'm like, it's 3-3. They're like, no, it's not. I'm like, it's 5-3. They're like, no. Now they starting to say, oh yeah, the Mexican is doing this thing. Now I want to know what fight was y'all watching that y'all didn't see everything that I was telling y'all. So
Yeah, they was having selective, mindset. Or they only
and,
saw what they wanted to see. They
and I
wasn't looking at the fight objectively.
exactly that's
They
my
they had
point,
a they had a dog in the race, so
and that's my
win,
point
lose, or draw.
because I didn't know the fighters. I have no dog in the race. I'm just
Yeah.
going off of what I see, and they couldn't see that until later. But it was a good fight. I enjoyed it. I'm gonna tune in to Reggie when he called more fights, but. And
Yeah.
hopefully I keep calling winners because and I used to always say that on here, these so-called professional, uh, whatever, these guys that analyze these fights and pick these fights. I don't get how they professionals if I'm steady picking fights better than them. But I think it's because of the biasness. Just like if
Who,
there's a basketball game, I might say the Lakers are going to win, but
who,
everybody
who, who
Oklahoma
you gonna
City.
take on the Crawford fight?
Yeah, yeah. Crawford's fighting again?
Well, isn't his fight supposed to be coming up with
It might
the?
be another one coming up. It might be. I
Yeah,
haven't checked it out.
I think he got one coming up soon.
Yeah. But boxing is a dying sport and too corrupt. That fight was not corrupted unless they told dude not to throw no right punches. Other than that, he got his ass whooped. New champion. I love to hear that sound. But what's the deal with you, cute? Oh man, you were supposed to you told me you wanted to talk about the P. Diddy trial and then go over some history and then questions and answers.
Okay, so off the top, P. Diddy's not a likable person for the way he treated, his wife or his girlfriend. So that's off the top. So the the prosecution, they making everybody. We already, well, I can't say we as, but there's a great number of people who don't like him, who just can't stand him. But they didn't charge him with that, domestic abuse, with the tape in the elevator. They didn't charge him with that.
Right.
They charging him over other people who made a choice to engage in that kind of lifestyle.
Right.
And so I wanted to contrast what he's doing, and everybody now is playing like, oh, I'm a victim. He drugged me. He made me do it. I'm scared of him. He's such this gangster. And all of that, they making an image that ain't really there. They demonizing him. He's already like if it was a movie, he's already the bad character in the movie.
Of course.
Because of some of the stuff he did. Now they making him this super predator, and it's all based on hearsay. Everything except for the tapes. And all the tapes show is a bunch of grown-ups engaging in awful behavior, to a person looking in that don't engage that kind of behavior. But should he get locked up for the rest of his life and all these other people trying to, the Me Too generation, trying to get, the lawsuit after the case? I actually think he's going to beat the case and they're going to have a hung jury. And then they're not going to have enough money to file it again. But I wanted to contrast his case with Hugh Hefner. Hugh Hefner had his own airplane. He had the Playboy Mansion. He gave the same kind of parties that Diddy supposedly had gave. He would fly younger women across country. He did all of the same things that Diddy did, but it was fashionable. And he was this, romper room playboy. And his name didn't get drug in the mud. He settled out of court, with some charges, but he didn't get threatened with racketeering and the RICO Act. I don't even know if they had a RICO Act back then, but whatever they could have charged him with, they didn't do it, And
yeah.
So, but P. Diddy ain't did nothing more than what that guy did.
Yeah, they going after Diddy. His name came up a little too much, obviously, or he pissed somebody off. But
yeah, but he get beaten it.
I agree that a couple of them people were just testifying because they wanted money out the deal.
Yeah.
Seemed like, and I don't see the trial on TV. I only see what the court reporters report. But it seemed like everybody was willing participants to me.
Yeah, they were. And the other thing, they already destroyed evidence. They destroyed fingerprint. Anything that would have went in his favor got destroyed. And it's like he's gonna beat the case, watch. But people don't like him. The jury is there, so they sitting there, they watching it. Now, sure, everything he did, he was an abusive boyfriend. He beat his girlfriend up. He did all those things are true, but he's not in there being charged with that. You charging this dude with a RICO Act. You charging this guy with all these other crimes with grown-ups who were willing to participate. And they got high at the party. Those were those kind of parties where you get high at. He didn't have to drug them. They already knew when they were in the place to get, they freak on or whatever they call it. They were getting high for sensational purposes because that enhanced whatever they wanted to feel, and they tripped. And they continued to go fly around the country, and it was all at Diddy's expense. If anything, Diddy was a super trick, a super sucker.
He
with a
was paying to have
soft
fun. Cute. He was paying for to host party.
Yeah, the whole thing was on him. And then and then they all coming down on him now. But like I said, Hugh Hefner had the same kind of parties. He did it all the way until he was old. Then he tried to clean up his image by marrying. He said, "Well, if I get married, then they can't say that I'm a freak, so I'm just gonna marry now." And then he would get married, to some kids, 20-year-olds, compared to what his age was. I'm like, man, come on, man. How you gonna celebrate one dude and then demonize another dude? And the other guy had a magazine. He not only had a magazine, he had a mansion that was just, for those parties. And they
Hey
would
man, they have no idea how many crack dealers had those type of parties in their spots.
Will Chamberlain said he had those kind of parties.
Man,
I bet Magic Johnson had those kind
of
of parties.
course.
Anybody that's a baller gonna have a big old party, and the people who want to come to the after party, they're gonna come. It's a free ride. You got all the coke in the world there. You got every drug that you want to get, and you really can't afford at that level. And people just want a free ride. So they went to the parties, they had fun, and some of the people were rich as him. And
Yeah,
they enjoyed themselves at the party.
yeah, they might not have had a connect to the drugs that Diddy had a connect to.
Yeah, he didn't have to force nobody to do nothing they didn't want to do.
But what up, y'all? What up, Mac Heads? Little Crazy, what up with you?
What's up, crazy?
Young Tiny in the building. Nikki Lee, what's up with you? I see you lusting over OG Cubes.
It's all right. How you doing, little Nick?
Little Nick.
Yeah, but I was just, kind of frustrated by it. And then, so that was just one of the topics I wanted to mildly touch on. And
Cool.
I seriously think he's going to, get an acquittal.
All right, what history did you want to talk about?
I guess the history that I wanted to talk about, I wanted to talk about the meeting that broke up the West Side a little.
Uh-oh.
And what was it centered around? Okay, so remember one time I said when you get in a gang, you're not supposed to, you didn't get in it with the intentions of staying there forever. And so, okay, so all of us were influenced by the people that were older than us that made it look cool, and it showed how to be a man, how to stand up for yourself, protect your neighborhood, protect your family, and handle yourself out in the street. Okay, so these are the things you do basically when you come up, in a state of poverty, but you don't realize how poor you are because you're a kid and you having fun and you got more money than the kids around the corner or down the street. You think everything is good at your house, but at their house it ain't that good because their clothes aren't clean, this and that. But you don't realize as a kid, you're all in the same neighborhood. Everybody is basically in the same, economic, deprived, of high pay and jobs. Everybody lives here because this is the poor area. So you make yourself feel better, by thinking if you get a brand new pair of tennis shoes or you get a new bike, this is in a kid's brain, you're doing a little better. Then you had the kids down the street that made their own toys. They made their own scooters, their own go-karts, their own push carts. That was like my family. And we would get with the other kids. We start making our own kind of motorbikes, whatnot. Then we start fighting the other kids that we thought were, richer than us. The goody goods. You go in front of their house, their mother tell you to go. They're not here. They sleep. In other words, they don't want them intermingling with you. So then you develop an inferiority complex within inside of your own community based on being more, poor than the other kids that are there who may have two parents or just, parents got a better job. Maybe they work at Lockheed and your parent might just be a janitor or something or whatnot. Or you might come from a single parent household. So most kids come up with this feeling of jealousy. It's an emotion, and they don't understand it. So at the meeting in 72, people started becoming real jealous of Stanley, Tookie Williams. And these were the people who were his friends. Buddha was extremely jealous of him. Uh, Everybody at that meeting was really, really jealous of him. Pookie didn't like him. Uh, Me and Mouse wasn't jealous of him. We liked him. But we didn't know that when we went to that meeting, we were being ambushed because this was a meeting after a meeting. We had already had the meeting in the park. We had never had a night meeting before. So this was the first time. And they didn't tell me that there was going to be a night meeting. They told Mouse. And then Mouse told me later on that evening, he said, hey, we got to go to another meeting. And I said, I'm going to a party tonight. He said, yeah, but we'll go after the meeting. And I said, all right. So we got ready for the second meeting, and we went up there, and I didn't have any clinician that what the meeting was going to be about other than they were going to talk about, we're going to turn out the party, or we're going to go over here and buy something, or we're going to put our money together to get something, or someone's messing up with us.
Let me stop you right there. Hold that thought.
Mm-hmm.
Explain to us what you and Pookie's relationship was like at the time, and who told you that they was going to turn it out.
Okay, so Pookie and I, we always had a relationship, but at this time, we would be together at the parties. We would be together at the record hops. He went to school, with my brothers and them. They went to, St. Eugene's right there on, I guess that's 91st or 92nd, down the street from Manhattan Elementary School right there in Van Ness. So our relationship was good. I mean, we were all West Sides. So we all respected each other. We didn't crack jokes. So it was more a serious time. It wasn't a funny, fun time, because we all coming into the adolescence of our thug, man. And we watching the other kids that are older than us, and we watching their behavior and how they interact with each other. So, so our relationship was good. And so I thought that when Mouse said that there's going to be a second meeting, because we went to a meeting earlier that day up at St. Andrews Park. Now, the second meeting, as we going down Western, I say, hey, man, you crossed Manchester. You going in through the other street? And he says, no, it ain't. Our meeting ain't going to be there. I said, where is it going to be? He says, it's going to be at, Sportsman Park, which later became known as Jesse Owens Park. So we pulled up in there, and we went toward the back of the park because you could drive down in there. Guess that's where the golf course is at, back up in there. So we ended up somewhere in the park. I remember that, and because this is 1972, you guys, and I got a good memory, but damn. So it was back in the park. I think it was before the gym or after the gym, and the gym set up high. So we all in there. So we pull up, we get out the car. So I see Hillbilly. So I call Hillbilly. I say, hey, what's up, Hillbilly? He said, where the meeting at, Cutes? And I said, Mouse knows it's back in here somewhere. And then we saw Monkey Man. So Monkey Man said, it's over here. So we all walked over there. We just squatted down. And so Monkey Man was there. Buddha was there. Melvin Hardy was there. And the original Crip named Cuz was there. So Cuz was a slim, dark-skinned Crip. So Cuz was there. So these dudes had already had basically been hashing this before this. They called this meeting. They had already. Donald Archie wasn't there. The only two dudes that was there from our part of the neighborhood was me and Mouse. So we were there. So we are there. So they talking. They say, yeah, man, we out in the streets, we fighting these dudes over here. We showing up at all of our meetings. We collected money for this. We doing that. Because by then we had a sergeants of arms and we had a treasury. We had bylaws. This group
Crips with a treasury. Imagine that.
Yeah, but you know who the treasurer was, right?
No.
Michael Christian was the treasurer. And I was the sergeant of arms. And so I said, well, what is this? We found all of this out. We did all of this ranking at a meeting that took place 2 weeks before. So the sergeant of arms, we kept all of the artillery. So that's what the sergeants of arms did. The treasurer, he collected the money. So when we have a meeting, everybody had to give a certain amount of money and stuff, which was good because you could use the money for gas or whatever needs you had. They would give you the money for it. Like you get the money to get something to drink. You say, hey man, I want to get some cold duck, man. Treasury, I want to get some cold duck. Then the treasurer look at you crazy. Man, this money ain't for cold duck. Come on, man. And and you give you a couple bucks to go get some cold duck. And we walk down to Thrifties and do that if we didn't pull a raid. But if you pull a raid, then that brings all the cops in the neighborhood. And then that just is, they didn't like that when that would happen. But sometimes it would be so many kids there, you can't reach all of them. But anyway, at this particular meeting that night that broke up the West Side, these dudes, they described their grievance, the grievance they had with Took. And I'm like, so what really threw me for a loop is the way that Buddha was talking. That's what threw me for the loop. Because he got him a job with him. They both working for Bob. So I'm like, damn. And then they had just came back from San Diego because they were up there together. So it's tripping me out. So I'm listening to it. And then at the end of the meeting, they said, well, Took ain't going to be running the West Side no more. And then they said, well, everybody's taking their sets back. And then I wanted to get a little boisterous, and Mouse kind of like nudging me down. So then I kind of like listened to him. So I didn't argue. I was getting upset in my kid brain. I could feel I was being, I didn't like it, what they were saying, because Took wasn't there. I was like, damn, but Took wasn't coming to none of the meetings. Because remember when I said you don't want to be in a gang, all your life, a gang that you got in when you was in elementary school or you got in junior high school. And Took in them's case, they were already in high school when the set started. They were in other gangs prior to that, but this one was the big one. This one was I didn't like when they said that we taking our sets back and that Took ain't the leader no more. I didn't like that.
All right, I got a lot of questions before you finish.
Yeah.
So had Raymond caught his case yet?
Yeah, Raymond was already locked up.
Okay, so this is the end of 72 or
late
summer to the new year.
Right.
All right, so Raymond's gone, and Tookie spending time in Banning, California, right?
Well, Tookie's spending a lot of time with Bob. Wherever Bob and them's at first, Took was in Pomona because he was in Boys Republic.
Right.
So at this time, Took was just getting out of Boys Republic, and he was with the guy who had the purse strings to the Red House, to the Slater House. The guy who started those homes. Right. That guy took a shine to Took and seen his leadership qualities, and he started talking grown man shit to Took. Right. And Took was all for it, Right. So right. Took Bonnie could probably tell a story, better than me on how Took was maturing and everything was going good for him. She just didn't know the part about our meeting because there was no women there. There was just a selected few of gang leaders of neighborhoods that was there.
Was Melvin Hardy there? Big Hoove there?
No, Big Hoove wasn't there. Big Hoove might have been in the joint in 72.
Melvin Hardy?
No, Melvin Hardy was out. Melvin Hardy was there.
All right.
Melvin Hardy was like the leader. When Took ain't around, Melvin Hardy was the leader.
All right.
We all respected Melvin as the leader. If
All right.
Took wasn't on the scene, then Melvin Hardy could call shots on all of us.
All right.
Uh,
And so y'all meet up, y'all gathering around, y'all kneeling down. How does the meeting go?
so Monkey Man, he said, so we are gonna take our sets back. So I said, what does that mean basically? And then they said, well, y'all Magnificent Seven. We Melvin Hardy and them was Block. And Monkey Man and them was UG. Buddha was UG. So they were all UG. Believe it or not, at this time, Pookie was in Hood. He was in Hood at this time. So Pookie was in Hood. The only reason Odie wasn't there, I think Odie could have been locked up, or Odie could have been in the military. I'm talking about Big Odie. Big Odie from the block. Spry's brother.
Right.
So he was Mr. X wasn't there. So the only person who came down from the hundreds was Melvin Hardy, Buddha, and Monkey Man and Pookie. They were all out of the hundreds. And so Cuz, believe it or not, Cuz stayed in the Brim neighborhood. That's where he lived at. Because we took him home a couple times, and I told Mouse, I said, "Damn, this dude stay right down there by all the Brims. Because as soon as you cross Normandy, you was in the Brim neighborhood. So he stayed back over there toward Vermont, and so I said, yeah, man. So Hillbilly, he was across. Everybody that was across Manchester, going. I guess that's going north. Across Manchester. So yeah, so they basically broke the West Side up that night. So. And then what happened is, this is the scandalous thing that happened. So Took got word of it. And so Buddha told him they had a meeting, this and this went down. Pookie, he was talking this way, he was talking that way. That's why that weekend, the following weekend, we had a record hop at Sportsman Park Record Hop. And Boss Tom Cross, that's who would sponsor our record hops. And so I remember Took all of us, we went up there because I'm like, Took, what you gonna do? You go, what's gonna happen? And like that. And so Took was mad. So he crossed the street, and Pookie and all of them was across the street. It was like maybe about 40 of them. And they were all on that side. So we were all on our side, and we all out front. So Took and Buddha, they crossed the street. So they told us to wait here. So we all waited on our side, and they went over there. So Took got to talking to Pookie, and they were like in each other's face. Pookie wasn't backing down, and they were like, woody, woody, woody. They, you couldn't hear what they saying, but you could see their posture and the way they moving. And, I know these dudes. And so Took get off, bow. And so he put dogs on Pookie, and then everybody's like, oh. So all the dudes, they all cross the street. We all go up into the record hop. Pookie gets himself together. He crosses the street. Now we back on our side. And then, so I was wondering why he got off on Pookie. So I kept asking Mouse. I said, hey, Mouse, why did Took get off on Pookie? And then Mouse said, I tell you. And then I said, all right. So we're in the record hop. So everybody's in the record hop. Took and Little James, they walking around the record hop, swole, flexing. Michael Irvine coming there. So all these dudes is in there. Monkey Man's in there. We all in there. And then I'm like, he didn't mention none of them dudes, Mouse said. Mouse said he made it seem like we had the meeting, and Pookie was the main one breaking up the West Side. I said, how can he think Pookie's the main one breaking up the West Side? He ain't like like on the same age group, level of thug with those guys that broke it up. We got our sets back, but he blamed it all on Took. I said, who? He Buddha. And I said, oh man, that dude is scandalous like that. And then Took never knew that Buddha backbited him at that meeting. Yep, never knew. So, and then you see what happened. Huh? What would you say, Kev?
I said that's crazy because that was his right hand man.
Yeah, and so what? But Sweetback knew. Because Sweetback wasn't at the meeting, so I told Sweetback everything. He said, "What happened at meeting, Cutes?" I told him. And so remember I talked about jealousy. Remember when I started this conversation out? I was talking about how we come up with this enviness and this jealousy. So these dudes, Tookie was the first one to get a car out of that group. See, the Magnificent Seven, we already had cars. But those guys, a lot of them guys didn't have cars. Which column had a car? Buddha had a car. Tookie had a car. Cuz didn't have a car. Melvin Hardy, they would ride around in a hearse. So I guess they owned the funeral home, or their mother or something, or their father was instrumental or deacon at a church. But I'm just saying, Took had a car, Lincoln. And so, and Took had charisma. He was getting on Super Swole, he was suave. Everybody liked him. He had that personality, and he was a good leader. He wasn't a troublemaker, and he didn't like guns. He was like, he would rather, fight you than to bust on you. He wasn't like that. And so these dudes got jealous because this is what happened. When all of these guys ended up with Bob Simmons, everybody I named ended up with Bob Simmons. But Bob Simmons tried to get all of those dudes a job. He tried to get everyone. He stretched his neck out for all of those guys to get a job. These guys had other things on their mind. They didn't want to work. It was exciting times. They didn't want to spend 40 hours a week at this place, put it in this work with all of these young thugs that Bob Simmons was pulling out of juvenile hall, because Bob Simmons had juice. He was pulling kids out of juvenile hall that had GTAs, had burglaries. These kids were all headed to the camps and stuff. And he was getting kids out of Compton, out of Los Angeles, and even further away. He were pulling them up out of there. He had all races, He had the majority of blacks, but he had whites in there, and there were Mexicans in there, and there were Crips and Bloods in there. This is when it first started. So I'm just letting you know. So Took couldn't come to the meetings, all of them, because he got a job and he's running shit. He's over all of these juvenile delinquents. He got to give them a regiment. He got to be there. You can just walk off from a placement. Have you ever been in a placement and the people just start walking off, getting in trouble? Now that's going to take away from their credibility. It's going to make public safety this, public safety that. But none of that was going on. People would get there, they would stand there. But you had to put in work for that, and Took was put it in the work. Mouse didn't want to work. He offered Mouse a job too. He said, "Hey, Mouse, why don't you come on over here and work with me?" And the Mouse already had a job. He was driving the beer trucks. Mouse was working for the big dude from the Green Bay Packers. He was working for that big ass, football player. He was working for him and Tom Selleck, and then they were partners in owning the Slits book distribution place right there in Watts.
So what was Blackie at during this time?
Well, let me shut my little bulldog up. Shut up, you little bulldog. Knock it off. All right, that did it. You're a bad little bulldog.
What was Blackie at?
Okay, so Black in 72, I'm going to tell you what happened in 72. So around 72, you had I think Blackie, and I think what's his name? Warlock and them. I think Blackie and Warlock and them was getting in trouble. I think because I stopped seeing Warlock a lot back then, and then I would see him, then he would go. Because you got to remember, this is when Michael Christian, Warlock, and all them got locked up. That was like in '72, but they were getting in trouble in '72. By '73, they were already gone. You know, and Big Buck was gone, Raymond was gone, so a lot of the guys, Mad Dog was gone.
Okay, watch this, Q. I don't want to ruin your timeline, but
no, Blackie wasn't in it. Fact is, Blackie wasn't even recruited yet. He wasn't even. I don't even think. Because remember, Blackie came from the Denver Lanes. So I don't even know if Tooken had recruited him yet. I don't know if they flipped him yet.
Well, what I was gonna say is, remember, Barefoot Pookie, Michael Concepcion, Lavelle Frierson, and somebody else had caught a case in '72, like in March of '72.
Yeah.
And Pookie was gone for 6 months out of state release.
Yeah.
So,
but this was before all of that, because this
this before the Hollywood Palladium murder.
It was
they were still claiming West Side and East Side, right?
Yeah, it was the West Side broke up. This meeting took place in '72, and it was right around that time. It was right in that time frame.
Well, keep in mind, okay, if Pookie is back, so Pookie comes back around September. Yeah. Raymond Washington caught his case in October, something like that.
Yeah, well, Raymond was definitely gone.
Right. So I'm just saying it's the end of '72. I was just narrowing it down to like October, November.
Yeah. Yeah. Because this is what I know for sure. What you call him? I think Erskine was locked up. I know Sweetback wasn't locked up yet, but all of these dudes had pending cases, and some of them were like out fighting their cases.
Yeah, so it would be the end of '72, early '72. Everybody wasn't catching cases yet.
Yeah, I think it was toward the end, because Buddha died shortly later.
Right, early '73.
Yeah, I think school hadn't even started, because I remember he told me to go up to Crenshaw.
I know, big deal. I was just trying to keep the timeline right. Go ahead with your story.
Yeah. That's right in there. You're right, though. That was around the time period right there. So what I meant by jealousy and everything is that these guys started being envious of Stanley, okay? And who he thought was his real friends wasn't his friends, you know? And that's just who he thought this dude was his friend, you know, but that guy was so jealous of him, man. It wasn't funny, man. You know.
Now, this was a West Side meeting, right?
Yeah, it was a West Side meeting, man.
No Compton, no East Side.
No. And the funny thing is, we met Compton in '72 up at me and Blackburn. It was me, Blackburn, Erskine, Miles Barney, who just passed away. We were all at the Capper House. Remember I told you we had met him over there in the Shell gas station parking lot. That was Mac. That was Compton right there. You know. But Raymond was out to go to the Watts Festival of '72.
Yeah, that's in the summer though.
Yeah, he was there. He was because we were together there.
Yeah.
He seen some '72. Yeah.
Reggie Owens had a front row seat to the West Side Hundreds.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about that, you know, how and then after that happened.
You never finished when you said he put dogs on Pookie, and then y'all was wondering who he was putting dogs on next.
Yeah,
Or,
it never was. It never was no next.
all right.
It never was. And then after that, you could always see Tip trying to talk somebody, to come back to the West Side. Let's make it West Side. And then Tip finally realized there wasn't going to be no West Side. And
Mm.
then he just started working harder. At he started getting bigger promotion. Running the house. Then he got his own house. To run. What's under there? Then he ended up getting in trouble. Then he ended up getting shot, and then he ended up moving back on 69th Street. When he moved back on 69th Street, now he's back in the frying pan.
Baycott and Big Bob. The February was the 1972 was the Palladium murder.
Yes. What month did that happen?
In February.
Yeah.
Or March. February, March. Pookie's incident was right after that.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Me and Pook talked about when the West Side broke up. We also talked about everything that transpired after that, and he agreed with me that they put it on him. He agreed with me that that's what had happened. But him and Tookie, they didn't have good blood because Pook started coming in our neighborhood a lot when his uncle moved on my street, and then we would go over Tookie's house, and Took would just be quiet, but we would go over there. But I could tell they wasn't really like ever gonna be friends like me and Took would be friends or Mouse and Took, but there was no I can't trust you kind of shit.
Well, Melvin Hardy gave me his version and Pookie gave me his version, and they both lined up. They both was the same story. Tookie supposedly didn't like Pookie always kicking off fights at the parties.
All of them dudes did it. Everybody would turn a party out. Out of all them guys I named, those guys would be the ones we would turn the party out. We saw those guys turn the parties out first. That's where we got it from, basically.
Yeah.
They would be the ones leading the charge on fighting in the party. And most of the parties got turned out because it would be another gang at the party.
Yeah.
Or it would be somebody there talking shit, or somebody would pull out a weapon. Or it always started over something, basically.
Yeah.
So, they could say that. They could say that that's why, but that wasn't why. Because Tick admired that behavior. Those were qualities that a gangbanger should have. Why would he want to beat up one of his members for being
because like you said, he didn't know he was gonna bang forever. So back then, Tookie's an adult. Tookie's 19 years old. He's working and he come to party. He's styling and big afro. Pookie was still 15. Pookie was 15, 16 years old. Already been to YA squabbling everybody. Not YA, but whatever. Juvenile hall or whatever.
Yeah.
And then already caught a murder. So he was kind of turned up for y'all generation.
Yeah, but Took and Mouse and them, they wouldn't go to when they didn't want to be at them kind of parties. These dudes had cars. They could go to the Proud Bird. They could go to the Carolina West. They could go to Memory Lane. They could go to Mavericks Flat. They could go to Elliott. Well, Elliott Smith and Jones wasn't around back then, or maybe, but they could go to all these different places, man. They could go to Bahamas Mama if it was around. What I'm saying is, these guys could go to the Lighthouse at Hermosa Beach. These dudes, they didn't have to go to no damn house parties like us. The thugs, we had the house parties, the garage parties and shit. When them dudes start putting on their tailors and getting in their little pimp bag, they wasn't pushing up on us to be cordial. They just say y'all can't go.
All right, so watch this, Q. Let's go back to what you said a minute ago. Just having fun in conversation.
Oh no, I like it.
You said Tookie liked gangbang activity. Well, if he go to them places all suited and booted, he ain't gonna have no gang activity.
Yeah, but I never seen Tookie get suited and booted until like 78 and 79. Took would be straight in combat boots, blue rag and Jemima style on his head, yokes on swole. Took was the style that you wanted to emulate. He
Yeah.
didn't. He wasn't wearing tailors. He wasn't doing all that till he got in his Mac bag. That's when he pressed his hair and was wearing his silk shirts and everything. You know, it took like being the Crip style.
That's funny, man.
Yeah.
Hey, when Cuse was in trial, I mean not Cuse, when Tookie was in trial, what type of clothes did he wear to court? Do you remember?
I don't remember,
Because you were
but
locked up
he,
too.
I remember we were all in the county jail there, and they would send them down. They were going out to this little real racist ass place. I guess it's right beyond Inglewood. They were having their they were he was having his trial down there. We were inside of the criminal court building, so you could see if you catch the chain. But I mean, you could have a suit brought in for you,
Yeah, I
you
know.
know, or you could do like me or the other dudes, and we would crease our pants, put them up under our mattress
Yeah,
and starch them with sugar water and
yeah,
let that shit dry and starch our shirts and that
man,
shit could stand up in the corner and have a spit shine on our shoes.
man, Cuse. That I was telling somebody, I think I was telling Sinbad Fotre that, and he had a totally different story. Made me feel kind of stupid. But to hear you say the same story I said makes me feel like I got it from the OGs.
Oh, you definitely got it from the OGs because that's how we would look inside of there. We would be creased every day. You
I,
had to
I, I,
represent.
I did it in the penitentiary, and boy, my jeans used to be sharp on visiting day.
Yeah, and you could have an iron when you get to the joint.
But
So if you're gonna go
I
to,
didn't even use the iron because there was a million people wanted the iron. So
yeah,
I would put sugar and water on mine, put them under the mattress, and still be fresh on visiting day.
man, you be fresh, dog. That's how you do it. And get the razor blade and cut you a little cuff in there and tuck it. And man, you'd be looking like, and you make them jail Levi's look good as anyone's on the street.
Man,
Yeah. But yeah, man. So that was basically Took style. He wears suspenders. He would wear creased Levi's, creased khakis. Then he started wearing slacks. When he took that picture and he's flexing his wings with the slingshot on and those shadow striped slacks, he would dress like that sometime. But everybody wore those too. Everybody had some slacks because that was the style from we saw the Slausons dress like that. So that's the way Munson and them would dress like that too. The
hey,
other kids would dress like that.
Go Young DJ said, talk about how Tookie used to drive 5 miles per hour down Normandy and cars wouldn't honk at him.
No, no. We get into Lincoln, and I have the Blue H Deuce on. Took had a glisten, shining bald head, and we would just be, man, that Lincoln set up in the front and it was dropped low in the back, and we would just be slow rolling, man, all the way up Western. Or we would take the back street, man. Where nobody blow no horn. Maybe they blow horn at the cars in back, but they ain't blowing directly in back of us.
Man, that's hilarious. What up, get him, Jank? Hey, man. Hey, get him, Jank. Man, I ain't no skinny dude no more, bro. But yeah, that's funny, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I just thought I would touch on a little history, two topics.
All right.
Diddy hit Diddy with the Hugh Hefner and Tookie,
Did, did, Took,
against the opposition, which
did, Took,
became
used,
the opposition.
did Took used to have his arm hanging out the window?
No, Took would grab the steering wheel because he had put a donut in the Lincoln. He put a chain steering donut in there, and he would be holding on to that because those donuts, if you don't hold them, they'll rip your fingers off.
Man. Man,
Yeah.
24-inch biceps would be a sight to see.
Oh yeah. All them dudes were pretty big, man. Yeah, them dudes was on swole, dog. I'm telling you. Nobody wore shirts. Everybody just wore slingshots. No, everybody peeled out every weekend.
Hey,
No,
man,
no. What?
hey, it's like when he turned. Well, Lincoln's probably had good power steering, but other cars with no power steering probably look like he flexing when he turned the steering wheel.
Heck yeah, man. Look like you fighting fishing, and you trying to get the line in.
Hey, man,
Hell yeah.
man,
But
that's
yeah,
crazy.
man.
You lived through a lot of time. You lived through all the Crip eras, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then I got to experience it in the joint, and I got to see how easy youth are manipulated to think they still a part of something, but yet they running up under something else that they was not supposed to be under because that group had already scratched Raymond, and then I watched all these dudes manipulate the younger dudes who didn't even know, and they didn't find out till later on, and then I'm like, man, that shit's crazy, man. Yeah, don't
Man,
make no sense, man.
man, Cubes. It was a lot of moving parts to the Crips early on. AR fan, what up? Y'all had a lot of factors early on with this Crip stuff.
Yeah, it was it was like a different level. Cause see, when you first go into the joint, you don't know how prison runs. You just got there. There were people there since the 19 there
50s.
were people there since the 1950s. And just like I moved through the 80s, the the 90s, and in the 2000s, you had people that when I got there in 80, you had people that already moved all the way from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. And so, who do you think knows how the prison works? The guy who just drive up, or the guy who's been there with a group? Those people know how the prison work better than us. We survived on pure thug, and that was it.
Hi, I don't like to do hypotheticals, but let me just try to say this. What do you think? How do you think blacks and BGF would have got along or not got along had all you guys that went in 79 been down when Raymond was down in 72?
It would have been different because you gotta realize Raymond got fed to the dogs because them other dudes had already jumped ship before him. His group that went in his time period, the dudes that he thought was still about it wasn't about it. They were the first ones who went covert on him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he didn't have nobody. Them dudes didn't want to stand up. Those dudes all turned into that and left him out there to dry, hung him to dry.
So do you think, in your opinion, is it possible that some of the younger guys, like your age, a year under you, were ashamed that they had become part of BGF, so they hid it from the general
I
public?
don't know. I don't know what a man's reason is for giving something up to become a part of something else. I don't know if it was fear that motivated it. I don't know.
I'm
Or
talking about hiding the fact that they had became part of that.
oh, they gonna hide that. They don't want to. Because they know that shows a reflection of that they couldn't stand firm in what they were a part of from the
Right,
street. So that
right.
make them that they don't look as built as someone like a Spark or me or someone like a Rockhead that finds out. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's like you can manipulate someone, but then once you realize you've been manipulated, now where do you go from there?
How come you guys didn't turn to the Black African Party like Monster Cody?
I don't know. Everybody's experience is different. Everybody's upbringing, even though you could come up in the same house. You could just have a different experience.
Do you think it's because his studying was so deep that he just learned more Black history and learned more about himself and what he wanted to represent, like a Black nationalist for Crips? And
No, I just think, like I told you, man, there were certain guys from that organization that were real and that were down, super down. And if you would have got around those guys when you were young, that would have rubbed off on you.
I got a whole lot of emails from Monster, and I never looked at them, never paid attention to them. But last week I was feeling kind of down and lonely, and I got to going through my emails. I got a lot of correspondences from Monster, and I want to do something with it, but I don't know what. Maybe one day I'll read some of it to you, and then you give me your response to it, whether you agree or disagree, or something you didn't know, or something you could add to it. I think that'll be a good show.
Yeah. Yeah, that
How's
would
his
be
brother doing? How's Kerwin doing?
I talked to Kerwin about 2 months ago. He was doing good. I was trying to talk him out of his motorcycle just to see where he was. And he said, "No, Coops, man, I'm going to keep it. I still get on it sometime." I said, "All right, cool, man." Like that. My dog is crazy as fuck. Get your crazy ass out of here.
Yeah, number one, I think it would be dope. I mean, ain't no sense in just letting the email go to waste. I died. Nobody never see the emails, right?
But now, if you look at this happens in all sets. Everything that I'm talking about, it happened in my experience. You can talk to people who are part of other sets. It happened in their set. Someone always get jealous of the guy at the top. And then the guy at the top is always going to have a group that favors him. But it's the majority group that turns the tide, that they keep control or they take control. That's how it is, man.
That sounds like me on the internet right now. Hey, Sino said, ask Cutes if he's been to Sturgis. I don't know what that word is.
No, I never been to Sturgis. I know what he's talking about.
Okay.
I never rode my bike. Oh, I want to tell that brother something. I'm thinking about getting. Okay, so I got the CBO, right? So my next bike, I'm gonna keep the CBO. I'm gonna always keep it. But my next bike in 2026, I'm gonna break out with a Hayabusa. I'm gonna get a 2026 Hayabusa, but I don't know what color I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get black or silver and red, but it's gonna be either or. But when I get it, I'm gonna show you guys it too. You guys will check it out.
All right, let me hit a couple comments and a question. Let me see. All right, so Go Young DJ said, Boxer just did a video saying he was neighbors with Monster Cody in Pelican Bay, and he read Monster's manuscript. Said Monster is the reason why he wrote the MA book.
Yeah.
All right, let me go to this next
one. People get influenced, man, by other people, or people have like interests. They say, well, I'm just saying, man, this gang dynamic is bigger than a lot of people think, man. Everybody would think, oh, these guys hate each other here. These guys, nah, man, it wasn't like that in the joint. It wasn't total hate, man. I'm telling you. You interact with each other. Convicts got along, man, to a certain age. Convicts didn't disrespect each other.
Right. Sweet note said, Mac, I was watching your old Monster Cody videos the last few days. They never get old. That's right. Keep watching them, man.
Yeah, keep watching.
Recircumvent them. SAG said BGF Vanguard needed soldiers. Those few Crips that came in first were strongly recruited. Is that right?
Well, the Vanguards was a good group of people because it was basically made up of guys from Los Angeles. So it had Crips and Bloods in the Vanguard. They just gave up some of their gangbanging ways when they became a part of that. So the other agenda was the same way too. But drugs is what destroys everything. You get that needle, you get that 1151, you get that becomes your leader. That becomes your master.
Monkey Ranch said, I think Monster had a lot of respect for Kid Mac videos. Was his best interview ever. Well, he said when him and Cutes was getting on the elevator, he said, Kid Mac is y'all historian. You know, he said, if you ain't watching Kid Mac videos, you ain't doing nothing.
Yeah.
So
that's real.
So that was a good plug by Monster himself. Reggie Owens said, Cutes, man, that bike goes 200 miles an hour.
Oh yeah, but I'm not gonna go 200 miles an hour on it. I'm gonna ride it. You know, I don't want to lose my Class A license. If I want to pick it up, you know, it's a straightaway bike. I could take it down to the track if I feel that need to check it out. You know, I could go to the track and do a quarter mile in it, and then if I get the urge to do that, I'll just slide up to Fontana. Fontana got a track. I don't know where another track is at though. California used to have all the tracks, man. We had Lions Drag Strip. We had the Fontana Speedway. Man, there was track. I think they even had a track down here in Dago. There was tracks, man. I don't know what happened to all the tracks. That's why you see people doing burnouts, donuts. They need somewhere to go and you know, exert that, you know, car energy out on a track some damn way.
Hey, if you guys feel like it and you can afford it, bless Cutes for all this history that he's given us. If you can, if you can't, you just can't. C. Carrera said he better not see you on one of them motorcycles, Cutes.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna take it up to the Harley Davidson clubhouse. I'm gonna pull up on my Hayabusa and I'm gonna put a Brock's pipe on it. It's gonna sound like a beast coming down the street.
Asiatic Supreme said, Cutes, do you remember when the Swans started? How do you remember them?
I remember the Swans. I remember that when I would be over Vertus Swan's house, when he stayed right off a Fig across the street, well, from the candy store, they used to be right there. I used to see the Swans. And basically they started like they said they started, you know. They wanted to start their own neighborhood. It was like Baba Louie. Baba Louie talked about it, you know, and that's just how things start, man.
Compton Girl said, best friend, how have you been?
You know, I've been working about, you know, trying to get this, you know, position back, and everything's been going good. I got my health and my mind, you know.
You trying to get your promotion back?
Yeah.
Drag Race and Carrera said, love it, no fear. I like when one of my favorite Q stories, Q said, well, Squally D had this Camaro and he used to drive crazy. He said, I got in the car and Squally like punched it all the way to the floor. And the car was going as fast as it could go. And Q said, can you go any faster?
Yeah, that makes Squally knew he had a madman in the car. That's when he slowed it down. Because this fool, we started on Florence, and it had to be an SS with a 350 in there. They lit him. Man, he punched it right there, and he didn't act like he wanted to let up. Gage came in a second, and we by Lemert Park. I'm like, damn, man, this thing go any faster. And that's when he slowed up before we got to Santa Barbara. Because he was.
Hey, I did a story about the homie Stagger Lee had robbed a market on Santa Barbara, and I was reading the comments, and somebody said, man, I was looking for it. I couldn't find Santa Barbara because you were a youngster, you knew school. So somebody in the comments had to tell them it's King Boulevard now for you youngsters.
Yeah, King Boulevard.
Okay, I got a couple more questions before I get to Sag's question. He said, oh, Black Joker said, OG Cutes, have you ever done time with Gangster from Santana Block?
Yeah, man. Gangster was my road dog.
Really?
Yeah, Gangster from Santana. Okay, Gangster from Santana Block. You're not talking about lowriding Gangster. You
Yeah.
talk. Oh, Gangster, lowriding Gangster. I know lowriding. When I saw lowriding Gangster at Monster's funeral, I'd seen Gangster before.
Okay.
I did time. I did time with the other gangster that used to go with Tora. That run with Black Connie. I think that was Baby Gangster. I think he was
He's
I
Baby
think
Gangster.
Big Gangster knew him, or he named himself after Big Gangster.
Cutes, who are some of the Crips we might have heard of that you started cripping?
Let me think. Back in the day.
All you gotta
Well,
do is start with the recruits for Magnificent Seven and Dinker Crips.
yeah, well, I
And
got.
Horseman.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Okay, so all the Horseman Crips for sure. So had Big Rick, Moncrief, guess Babyface, all of us. Sidewinder Rayford had shit. There was so many of us, man. We were all kids though. We could have went in any direction, but Took and them sent me up there. Buddha sent me to Crenshaw, Took sent me there. So it was a lot of Crips, man. Had influence on, you know. They start cripping me because they wanted to crip. I had a crip influence on them. Pinky. So I
Oh
had a
yeah,
crip influence on them. And
so
people had a crip influence on me. Sweetback, Took, Raymond.
of course. Oh, to the brother that asked the question, the Cutes know Raymond. Of course he knew Raymond. So
Raymond was my friend.
Sag said when the CCO emerged, is it true a deal was worked out with the BGF and Vanguards? The guys who were Crip first to join them could come over to CCO and join the Crip organization?
Never heard that at all.
Yeah, I knew Gator. I know Big Gator and Little Gator. Little Gator is the one Monster was referring to. I don't know about it getting knocked out and all that, but yeah, I know him. Gator was all right. Me and Gator used to work together. Then he got a car dealer's license or something like that, a license for the auction or something. He started selling BMF cars, Ferraris and shit. And I haven't seen him since. So I haven't seen Lil Gator in about 23 years, something like that. Juice, any story on Glenn, aka Loose Booty?
Yeah, I got a story on Loose Booty. So in our neighborhood, on the weekend, we would fight. So we would go and fight down on Hardale. So we would be having these head up fights over there all the time. So the homeboy battle used to always come down there and fight. So the homeboy battle, him and Loose Booty, they would always fight every weekend. They'd be down there, fighting. But after these dudes would get through fighting, then everybody would just be hanging out and stuff. We'd be hanging out over there. But everybody over there would be like fighting and shit. And Glenn, he was like, Glenn had ended up going to camp. And when he got to camp, he was in there with the guy that shot him. So then him and that guy had a fight inside a camp. Everybody heard about the fight, came back to the street, and everybody was like, oh, shit. That was cool. And then, so Glenn had brothers, Glenn, Loose Booty came up with a big family. They lived on the corner of 71st and Hardale. And I knew his daddy, his mom, all his brothers. He had a sister, maybe one or two sisters. So I knew his father used to like to go fishing, so we all went to Raymond Avenue Elementary School together. You gotta realize these are the kids, I grew up with as a child. But yeah. So yeah, Kim, man, I look back on some of the stuff and I'll be like, damn, like I knew little Eddie Boy, and then when they came to the joint, I knew all of them when they first got there.
All right, Sag said the first gangster was from Park Village. He had kids with Tyra. She rest in peace now. He used to
That's
write.
the
He used to write
okay.
him.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one, homie. That's the one that I did a lot of time with.
All right.
Yeah. He used to always show me. I knew Toro on the street though. I
All right.
saved Toro and them one night. They were
All
getting
right.
chased by some crazy pimps. I mean,
Ask
or
Q.
Crips.
Ask Q. Where's the video of him dancing on Soul Train?
So I think that was 1971, kid, was it?
I forgot. 71, 72. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was the one. It was the one where Stevie Wonder singing "Very Superstitious."
Stevie Wonder, man. He looking up Cool in the Gang and all of that.
Oh yeah, that's a whole group too. But no, Stevie Wonder had the #1 song called "Inner City," or it was about to become #1. Inner City Blues, Inner
OG
City.
Cutes, how do you remember the Brims and all the Brim sets like Unton, Broadway, Bloodstone, Jungle Stone, Van Brims, Futon, etc.?
I remember all of them. Those were good sets. I used to go to parties in all them neighborhoods. Hoover family up there in the 24th Street, all back in there with Big Nate and them. I remember the twins. I remember all them brothers, man. Being camp, juvenile hall. A lot of them brothers went to Vietnam. Knew Big Treetop. Chew from Five Deuce. His brother was a brim. It was two treetops for the brims. One treetop passed away in Vietnam, and I'm not sure how the other treetop passed away. I knew Pumpkin. I grew up with all the brims. Connie, I grew up with him. I grew up with Country, Big Country, Little Country, Doty, Celestine, Winston Weaver, all the brims. Big Red, Little Red. I could just name brims all day.
Man, have you ever seen Monster Cody have a fight?
Yeah, Monster fight kids his own age. I trip on people who say, hey, Monster can't fight. Monster hit hard. When he was a little kid, he hit hard like a little man. Monster can fight. Monster had chunkums. Just when anytime you get too high, it's going to take from your ability. Getting
19,
high robs you of your ability, being too high.
1972, Soul Train.
I had a young lady that stayed up in Palisades back then. So I went on there with her. Our audition was at Dinker Park, right there in Harlem Hood.
Mm.
Yeah, right over in there.
We got a lot of people in here tonight.
How many we got?
140.
Oh, yeah. Well, y'all should ask me some good questions.
147 now. Y'all got
Yeah.
any good questions for Cutes?
And show me a little love so I could fill up the truck.
And he's looking for a little bit of love.
Yeah.
I mean, he takes time.
I mean, not the Puff Daddy kind of love, but I mean old school shit.
Not
finance.
Cute, not Cute with the P Diddy jokes.
Yeah.
Hey,
The baby Oreo and all that shit. I mean, who would want to go to a party with all that goddamn Oreo? You gonna get it all over your clothes. If you got on light color, you gonna look like you peed on yourself. I mean, I'm just saying, you really wanted to be at those parties, man. Whoever was there, they went out of their way to get there.
They ain't taking their clothes off. They ain't getting no baby oil on their clothes.
Oh, shit. Well, taking them off. As soon as you walk in the house, then you better take them off.
Q said no Diddy. Q, you funny, man. They always say, Kevin, you made Q's laugh. I'm like, Q's ain't that serious all the time. But you was kind of serious when I first met you, though. You was kind of like.
Hey, you stay in jail long as I was in jail. It makes you serious.
But you wasn't paranoid like dudes that do a lot of time. A lot of dudes that do a lot of time be looking over their shoulder and shit. They think you setting them up all the time. They don't want you close to them to step on their foot or anything. But
Those
you
are
was
dudes
real
with
calm. You was
those,
real
those,
calm.
those are guys with a lot of skeletons in their closet.
Yeah, you was calm, Q said that.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that first line. I want to apologize to all my victims. I cannot find that. I was gonna make a short, but I could not find it.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was a
man,
cold
that's
line.
real though. That's real. Every criminal should have a sense of wrongdoing and who you harmed, how you harmed them, and its effect on their family and the community as a whole. And then you should, you want to be, sorry for that. You want to feel sorry for what's inside of yourself, and you want to apologize to the friends and family of the victims,
Right.
in the community. That's if you change. If you don't change, then you ain't got to feel nothing. You could just be a heartless son of a bitch, and you ain't got to care about nobody. And it's going to show because you ain't caring about yourself.
Did Tookie dance at the parties? You think he was too big to dance?
No, me and Took used to have the coolest dance. Took would take his biscuit. He had one of them brown biscuits. He had one of the slacks with a little flood in them, and he would just move his foot around his cane. Stick the cane out in the middle. All the girls would come up and dance with Took. Be trying to get up on Took and stuff. Sometimes Took would take his blue rag and put it on a girl's shoulder.
G Rock said, Cutes, what's your opinion on Larry Hoover being pardoned by Trump?
Man, it's a wonderful thing. See, Trump, I'm gonna tell you, Trump, you're a crazy motherfucker, man. Sometimes I can't stand you, Trump. And then you do something courageous like that. You like a Gavin Newsom. And that's why I respect him so much. But yeah, man, right on, Trump. That was righteous, man. Man, now you know who you ought to pardon now, Trump? You ought to come to California. Well, Gavin Newsom already did it. Yeah, Gavin Newsom already took him off. That was the other brother whose DNA didn't match. And he was a mild offender and he only made it to Chino. He never made it to the joint until they said, oh, we found his fingerprint or we found something and he was on AWOL at the time and he killed his family. And that dude swears up and down he didn't do it. And everybody who knew him said he didn't do it.
Yeah,
So
Cutes went to the Watts Festival that everyone talks about. Larry Hoover still got 200 years in the state, so the governor of Illinois has to pardon him now.
yeah, well, he got pardoned of his federal crime, so
Trump,
now he got to work out the other one.
right? Trump's buying black votes with pardons. He returned the death penalty in California.
Yeah, well, Trump's agenda for why he does it. Well, I know he's a super manipulator, but I bet if it's you the one being pardoned, you
Man,
don't care about none of that shit.
Exactly.
You wouldn't care about none of that. His political, stance on this and that. Pardon me. If it makes you get an extra black vote, but I don't think too many people liked it, Hoover, that voted for anybody. So he came up with a lifestyle of people. He didn't rub elbows with the lifestyles of the rich and famous. He hung out with the downtrodden. The only person who liked him was Gaddafi. Gaddafi's dead.
I agree, and I've said I'm truly sorry for what I have done. Man, that's like night and day, man. A lot of brothers you wouldn't even know was participating in all this violence back in the day because they have changed so much.
Yeah, man. Gotta grow up and change. It's like I
Yeah, I
said,
know.
you're gonna be
I
a
know you're not
ganger for the rest of your life.
I know because Trump don't have no control over the state of California. I know, C-No. Shout out to Kill Mac and Q. Marcus Young, cuz, what up, man? Long time no see, homeboy.
When people say dumb stuff, I don't even respond to it because
Yeah,
I already know Gavin Newsom is the champ of our state. I already
right,
know that.
right. I wouldn't call it dumb.
Well,
He,
Gavin Newsom is gonna be the next president, maybe.
Gavin Newsom, he's gonna have more problems with Democrats than he's gonna have with Republicans because they mad he switched his stance. But how could you be mad, man? It's like 80% of Americans don't agree with transgender and the stuff that they got going on. That Kamala
Yeah,
Harris.
that was just the lady, not realizing that she was making herself unpopular. Gavin Newsom he's gonna beat DeSantis. That's who they're gonna run against him.
Okay.
You think he can't beat DeSantis? He's gonna whip DeSantis's butt. DeSantis better get some extra high shoes when he goes against Gavin Newsom. I tell you that.
Cuse, you've been following your politics, I see.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got away from it lately. I've been in my own world lately.
Yeah. That's what's up, man. Because like I said, they gave Trump that big ass bad airplane. Everything he's getting, he ain't sharing with nobody. So, like I said a long time ago, it don't matter who's gonna be the next president. Everybody, at this level, everything ain't nothing gonna change. Everything's still the same. Nothing gonna be any different.
Yeah,
It's gonna be.
Cuse
It's
knew
gonna
OG
be.
Sarty.
Yeah.
Cuse knew Sarty, and I think Little Caesar did time with Sarty.
Yeah. Well, I never got to meet Salty for the simple fact
Oh, my bad.
that he was on his way home.
That's why I thought you met him.
No, I never got to. I met Lightbulb.
Oh,
Lightbulb had got out like a month or two before.
Mama's
So he told Sugar Bear, and Sugar Bear told us. So we was getting him a plaque ready at the long table.
Yeah, my apologies, my bad.
Yeah, I went over his house though. Stayed across the street from the elementary school.
Over. He said New Scum's career is over.
Yeah, well, maybe so. But who else is we gonna get as a Democrat to run against DeSantis?
Man, I don't think no Democrat gonna win no time soon, man. Democrats, they lost in the sauce right now, man.
Yeah, they don't know what to stand for and what not to stand for.
Nah.
They kind of lost in the sauce, like you see it.
Yeah. Because they not living in reality right now. They talking about hiring groups of people to tell them, what Americans want. How hard is it for you to realize what Americans want? You guys do town hall meetings all over the place. You read newspapers like everybody else. I think they done got caught up in just trying to milk the system for paper that they don't even pay attention to Americans.
Yeah, they don't even talk about reparations. I bet if boatloads of white people were brought over here in slave ships, and then Trump became the president, I bet you he would have gave them reparations right away. You see how he treated the people who rushed the Capitol. He gave all them pardons. Trump don't play. Obama could have did the same thing with reparations. He could have said, all right, reparations, this is how it's going to look. You could have gave everybody, like when you go to the Army, you get the bill to buy a house. The GI Bill. You don't got to have a down pay. You don't have to have a mortgage. You could just go in there. So, it was a lot Obama could have did. Obama didn't do nothing, man. Politics suck.
Thank you, Cutes. All facts. Every other race got reparations but us. Whoever Trump endorsed will not win. They just won 7 swing states in them last primaries or whatever that was, governor races.
Yeah, but what messed Trump up is the Doge. Partner with Elon Musk. That damaged his brand. Yeah, so now Trump knows his brand is damaged, so he don't care. He ain't turning down no gifts. So if you want to give him something, he'll accept it. Go buy one of his coins.
Send him a gold dildo with some baby oil. He'd be happy.
I know what. If I was P. Diddy, I would be trying to strike a deal. But P. Diddy's case, is it a federal case or is it a state case?
Federal.
Oh, then Trump can let him go.
Trump said he got to weigh it out because Diddy said some things that wasn't favorable to him. But once he became, a presidential candidate, he said before that they was good friends though.
Yeah, they both out of New York.
Yeah.
Man, he probably left some baby oil up in that gold tower, that Trump tower. He probably left a couple bottles, in the room. I didn't know he was here. Well, those are the kind of baby oils he liked. Or maybe he came under another name. See that black guy there? That looks like him on the camera. Well, I'll be damned.
That's funny.
Up in the presidential suite. Get that baby oil out of here.
No vote, aka no reparation, no vote. He ain't turning down no gifts. Me either. Shit, me neither. What?
Shit, I'm turning that.
My mama would be pissed off if she was living right now. Like, nigga, didn't I teach you not to take nothing from nobody? Mom, this a new time. Shit. Remember, back in the day, Mom, my friends didn't snitch.
Yeah. Back in the day, they hate on you. They would do it in secret.
Man.
Come on camera with it. I'm like, man, hang him. Hang that black man.
For real.
We could look up. We gotta look up some old stuff when black people would go in on each other, when they get jealous of each other and one get in trouble, they go all in on them, and from the 60s and back in the 50s and stuff. I'm trying to think of something that one black guy did and everybody got mad at him. Everybody didn't want nothing to do with him.
Time out real quick. Killer Cali says Trump will let drug dealers and murderers go. He's not touching sex case. However, he hired a whole bunch of people associated with sex cases.
Yeah, he used to fly around with Epstein or Epstein, whatever you want to call him. And he even got his airplane as Air Force One. So how is he not gonna, be in favor of letting out a sex offender? Yeah. I mean, he got morals. It's like he's like all of a sudden. Plus, he got his hands dirty before.
Man, that's crazy.
Oh man, he got his hands dirty. I didn't mean to say that, man.
That really was that devil, Hillary Clinton, going after Gaddafi and Bin Laden and all them. That was really her thing.
Well, they all got the issues, man. They all operate. They all got someone they don't like and they want to get them right away. You notice the death penalty ended after they killed Tookie.
Hillary would hang Trump if she could.
I don't know.
She hates Trump now. She hates his guts.
Yeah, but I don't think she would ever run for nothing. She just
can't run for nothing. Yeah. She played out now. She's been exposed.
Her time is gone, man.
Man, for real. Yeah, her time is gone, bro. Yeah, how was your last day in prison before release the next day?
Man, the only thing that I was worried about in prison, first I'll tell you what I was worried about. I was worried about that someone was going to make me fuck them up. And because people were starting to act a little stupid toward the end. And then they ended up sending me to Corcoran. And when I got to Corcoran, I didn't know hardly nobody there. So they put me over there with all the Bulldogs. So the Bulldogs, they're not getting along with the Southerners. So I said, oh, man, I'm about to be in a big-ass goddamn riot. And we're in a dorm. So it was all crazy, man, toward the end. But it was like I didn't know that I was going home. So this brother, well, I knew I was going home, but I thought I was going home maybe a year later because my life sentence had already been, done. And now I was in there for my parlay time. So I'm doing time for parlay. And then this brother said, hey, man, why you still here? I said, because because they won't let me go till I finish this time. He said, let me read your transcripts. So I said, here, man, read them. So he kept my transcripts for like a week. Then I went back over in the building and I said, hey, man, what's up? He says, I already got your paperwork in, dude. He says, you owe me $75. And I said, what are you talking about? He says, I'm getting you out. He says, give me $75. Here's the canteen list. I said, all right, give it to me. So I said, but if I don't go home, you're going to give me the $75 back, right? He says, of course. And so I says, all right. I went and got all the stuff in the canteen. I took it over to him. And he said, you ought to just start hanging out with me every day. I said, all right, we're going to hang out. And he was a lifer. And so then me and him got to kicking it and shit. Man, he says, look, you already beat it at this level. And then he starts showing me how I'm winning. And I said, damn, I don't believe it. And then, man, one morning they just called me. They said, Gilbert Bell, bring all your stuff to R&R. So I went down to the gate. And then the guy said, they confusing you with someone else because you're a lifer. I said, yeah, I'm a lifer, but I already paroled my life sentence. He said, no, you ain't never paroled. I said, look, man, I already paroled my life sentence like that. If they call me to go home, then I'm going home like that. So then the lieutenant came over there. All the people came over there. And then they said, yeah, man, we got to let him go. So I had this box, and I'm walking through Grand Central Station, mobbing with my box. I'm free. I'm on the street. All the PCs on the bus thought I was going to get them and shit. They didn't want to get off the bus. I said, man, I ain't thinking about these motherfuckers, man. Like that. It was a bunch of crazy shit happened toward the end. But yeah, one morning I'm locked up. Next morning I wake up, I'm free. And I've been free ever since. No violations. None of that.
Remember when you got home and you borrowed somebody's cell phone to make a call?
Yeah, I do said, hey, man, could I have my cell phone back? I said, yeah, man, I'm not trying to lock up on your cell phone. I just don't know how to use it. You know, I was looking at it. It was like, oh, it's going to just, call the number. I didn't know how to open it up, because I didn't mess with burners in the joint because you could get extra time. And I was too short. You got dummies, man. You say, don't say the word dummy, dog. What else could I call a person if you got a date? You as a lifer, you got all this, you got a date, you going home. But while you waiting for your date, you get busted with a cell phone. You get busted with oxycodone. Man, you ain't going home now. You lose your date. Now you back with life, and you ain't never left. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't going to do no stupid penitentiary risk shit. I wasn't thinking like a criminal anymore. You got to quit thinking like a criminal. If you want to stay a citizen, you can't think like a criminal. You can't give in to criminal ideas and criminal behavior and criminal thoughts. If you're going to be a civilian, you got to have civilian thoughts.
I can't help it, man. All my thoughts are criminal, but I don't act on them, though. That's different.
But that makes you not a criminal. The criminal acts on their thinking.
Man, I be seeing all kind of situations. I be like, damn. Like, I have a problem with my old life and my new life where I still think like my old ways, but I be so happy that I don't have to worry about the police knocking on my door and shit.
The only time I go to jail is in my dreams, and that's okay. Because when I'm woke, I'm not making no decisions to put myself locked up, no kind of way. You can come to me and say, this is the grand scheme of things. It's easy. You're going to get away. Get away from me with that dumb shit.
Did your parole try to violate you?
Man, my parole officer used to come and wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, be in my room and go to all my drawers, and the cops would be right there with them. And I'd be like, they say, you don't got to get out of bed. And then I would just stay there and watch and search the whole room. Then he say, I'll see you later on. You give me a drug test. Man. I said, all right.
Well,
Yeah.
Keith, so I'm gonna go jump in bed, play spades, and drink some milk, man.
Man, that milk is good for you, man. It's high in calcium. It's good for your bones. I wish I could drink milk. Only thing I get my calcium out of broccoli.
Oh, I love broccoli.
Yeah, broccoli's good.
When
Hell
I
yeah.
go out, I usually eat some broccoli. Broccoli or
Yeah.
spinach.
Well, Mac-heads and maniacs, we had a good night sharing. Hope I didn't offend too many people, but if I did, what the fuck? But other than that, everybody, have a good rest of your Saturday night. I remember on Saturday, the eagle would fly. Man, it's Saturday. I'm here chilling in my room, kicking it. I ain't even thinking about going out.
Hey, I dropped two skits. I dropped two skits today, man. You didn't see them?
Oh, man, your comedy skits is funny, man. I love your humor, dog.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, your shit is raw.
You're gonna motivate me to make some more.
Well, I like them. They cool.
That's cool, man. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good night, man.
All right, peace out, brother kid.
Don't
Peace out, Mac
don't,
kids,
don't forget
maniac.
to hit cutes if y'all can. $ cute 777. Y'all have a good night. We'll see y'all soon. Peace.
Peace.